What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Giselle and I'm a sonographer out here in Las Vegas. And today I have a special video for all of you who have asked me to have someone on about fetal echo. And we have Mary Beth here. She's from SonoeyesUltrasound on Instagram, TikTok. If you guys haven't seen her around, she has amazing videos and a lot of humor, educational content, and I absolutely love her stuff. So I'm so glad she's here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate you so much for being here, and I'm just so inspired by you, and you motivate me, and I'm just so glad to have you on. Yay.
Yay. glad to do it. Glad to do it.
Yeah, so I know from your page, especially, so if you guys haven't gone to her page, she is an MFM and OBGYN sonographer, and she has a ton of registries. And so just kind of tell them a little bit about what those are, because I don't even know some of the registries you have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am AIDMS certified. I graduated in 2001 from Southern Illinois University, and I received a bachelor's degree. And this is, at the time, that was one of the first bachelor's degrees in the country that I know of. So I am grateful that I got the bachelor's degree right off the bat there.
Mm-hmm.
I am certified in abdomen and small parts. So I started my path as general and OBGYN. My school did not teach vascular when I was in ultrasound school. So I learned all vascular on the job. And that's when I kind of got my feel for a lot of little things, all the whole ultrasound world, if you will. But in OBGYN, especially in maternal fetal medicine, we do carry specialized certifications more that we do. So the NT is the nuchal translucency, and that can be a couple places offer that. And that's the Fetal Medicine Foundation or NTQR. So the NT, that is that 12-week ultrasound where we measure the skin fold on the back of the baby's neck. And then we put it together with the maternal blood sample. And that would be like the first trimester combined screen. Nasal bone, NB is nasal bone. So there is shockingly a special certification just to measure the fetal nasal bone, but it's an important one. I mean, it's a big deal. I am also certified in CLEAR, which is called the Cervical Length Education and Review Program. So that is all about cervixes. We do a lot of cervixes in MFM. I know more about the cervix now than I ever thought I'd want to learn in my entire life, but here I am living the dream. We do a lot of cervical monitoring for patients that have preterm labor, patients that have a history of preterm labor and or delivery, patients with incompetent cervixes, patients that need cerclages, that's a vaginal cerclage or an abdominal cerclage. And that's just like a piece of string that just cinches that cervix shut. That's what a cerclage is. So we do a lot of monitoring of cervixes. There is a special registry just for cervixes, which is amazing. You can go on and you can watch it. If you send images and you want to get CMEs for it, you can, but even just being educated about it can make a big difference in your OB ultrasound studies. And then I'm also uterine artery Doppler certified as well. We do people that have a history of preeclampsia or have hypertension and have a high risk of preeclampsia later in pregnancy. We do a lot of monitoring the uterine artery Dopplers because that tells us how good the blood flow is to the uterus, and a uterus that receives good blood flow should grow a healthy baby. So another certification for that as well.
Cool.
So those are like a lot of little certifications that I have. And those are kind of the nasal bone, the NT, those are very standard for an OB sonographer. CLEAR and the uterine artery Doppler are definitely more MFM in nature. And then I have my fetal echo registry, which I took in 2018. I don't know if a lot of MFM sonographers have that. I know that in our office, in our company, we are definitely encouraged to get our fetal echo. They want us all fetal echo, but it also depends on the comfort of the MFM physician reading those studies as well. So some MFMs, they don't do fetal echo because they don't want to read those studies. They send them all to the pediatric cardiologist. So that's kind of based on your company and what they expect of you as one of their sonographers. So those are my registries in a nutshell.
That's a lot, and a lot I had actually no clue about.
It's a lot.
And just it just shows you though, because like even in that span of like 1 minute, you had all that information. And a majority of my followers actually are students or people who are wanting to come into the field. So a lot of them have no idea about basically anything, and they're doing their research.
All of that. Well, and you think, I'm going to a general program and I'm learning OB, OB and GYN, because you're not going to do one without the other. But that's not where it stops. Like, it's not that you get your OB registry and then boom, you're done. Like, if you really want to give your patients the best care and be educated, your education should never end. And by doing these registries, you have kind of subspecialized into this particular this segment of the pregnancy. So these are big things. Our first trimester screens, they're big deals. The cervix, this is a big deal. So all of that just continues on your education. So if you think, oh, I'm just going to go to school and I'm going to get my OB and I'm going to be done, maybe. But there's so much more. Like, it's really such a specialty, a subspecialty. OB is. There's just so much to learn, so much to know. You're not going to see it all, but it is, I mean, it is amazing because you just never know what you're going to see.
Yeah. I mean,
I love that part, but you see what I mean? Like, you think, oh, I'm just going to learn OB and then I'm going to be done, but there's much more to it as well.
A majority of people think like they can come in and just do like, okay, OB, baby, like you said, but then they don't realize they have to go through the general process, because you have to know all the general stuff on a regular adult human being to get to know it on a little baby.
Yes. Well, and it's funny because the other day we had a patient come to the office and the MFM doctor said, can someone look at her kidneys, the maternal kidneys?
Oh, yeah.
And like a lot of the techs I work with were like, I don't even know what maternal kidneys look like. And I thought, I know what maternal kidneys. Like, I am registered in abdomen too. I do nothing of the mom's anatomy beyond ovaries lately, but I'm like, I can do those cookies. So it's kind of interesting because you look at, like, if you learn general and you learn OB, it just makes you better. Like, it just gives you more information and more. And yes, I'm not scanning maternal kidneys a lot, but all that is still, it's buried in there, but it's still in there.
It's there.
you just kind of miniaturize it for babies, which I don't know. I mean, it's kind of cool. So you think, oh, I'm just going to go to school and I'm just going to do babies, but learning all of that builds you up into what you can become. It's you don't want blinders on, especially in school, right? And I went to school saying, I don't want to do babies. I want to do anything but babies. And 20 years later, this is where I am. But I liked general and I liked vascular, but I'm glad I learned it all. I'm glad I did all that. It's only helped me in my career. It's only been beneficial to me.
I love that. And it goes to show that you can just kind of like do whatever you want in this field. And there's still so much room to even do more, expand, specialize, like move around. And like, even one day, if I decided, which I probably won't, but wanted to go into like all that specialty stuff, I could, just because I am, general, and I only do limited OB at my hospital, but like, who knows, I can one day maybe want to do specialty.
Yeah. And
which I think is cool.
And you always have the ability to do that, which is, it's a way to kind of hop around, but you're in the same field, if you will. And I love that idea. It's been very great. It's been worked very well for me.
I love that.
That's good.
I love that so much. So I do see that, you went to school a while ago, which is crazy because you don't look like you went to school a while ago. But how would you say, like, why did you go into ultrasound? Like, and how was your school back then and versus now? And I saw that you also had kids too during that time. So if you want to share a little bit about it.
So I went into ultrasound. I grew up in a really small town in Illinois, and like the cornfields of Illinois. And my high school boyfriend, his brother ran the radiology department. And I loved anatomy, but I didn't want to be a nurse. And he said, well, go follow my brother around, like go check it out. I think I was 16 or 17, and I walked into an ultrasound room and I was like, I'm done. Like, I don't want to leave this. Like, I think it was like a liver and abdomen being done. And it turns out like the sonographer was like a parent of someone that I was on the swim team with, because small town. That's really what it works. That's really how it works.
Get to a small town.
Right. It really is. So, I mean, I think I'm lucky that I am one of those people that I was like, at 16, I'm going to do ultrasound. And I never changed my career. I never changed my career path. I never wanted to do anything else. When I went to school, so I went to school in 1997, I knew that Southern Illinois had the only radiology program at the time in Illinois that I knew of. There were some places in Chicago that did it, but they were only associate's degrees. And I wanted the bachelor's. That's what I wanted. As far as I know, that was one of the only bachelor degree programs at that time. We were not accredited. I know we were going through accreditation. I don't know if that's what we know as KHEP today. Because again, at that time in the late 90s, that accreditation wasn't as vital as it is now. And especially with a lot of the 2-year programs, I definitely tell people look for that KHEP accreditation. But for a bachelor's degree, you can sit for your boards right away. So if you're going for the bachelor's, I don't think KHEP is as important if you have a bachelor's degree, but a 2-year program, yes. My first year was just your basic college courses. My second and third year, I was an X-ray tech first. So we had to go through the X-ray program. So I was an X-ray tech. That summer between my freshman and sophomore year, that was the only year that I did not have any summer classes. The rest of it was all radiology, which then our fourth year, our final year, we could choose CT, MRI, radiation therapy, or ultrasound. So that's kind of how my schooling was based. So we all became X-ray techs our junior year, our sophomore, junior year of college, which was nice because you take the ARRT board. So then you learn, oh, this is what this testing is like. This is how you do this. And in college, I mean, I was making $13 an hour as an X-ray tech. It was great, like in Southern Illinois. It was great. So my senior year, I worked nights at a hospital, nights and weekends at a hospital doing X-ray. I was a resident advisor too. So that helped as well. But I did that all throughout my senior year. And then I took my, to finish ultrasound up. So because we were not accredited, I needed to work for a year to get those boards. And again, I graduated in 2001. It was not hard finding a job if I wasn't accredited. Now I think it's much harder. And I know a lot of the schools, you're taking your SPI before you're even out of school, which I think is amazing. I barely passed mine. I literally passed mine by one question. I figured that's okay.
Yeah, you passed.
I'm so fast. Thank God. But physics was never my thing. But yeah, I really think that by kind of going that path, you kind of got into medicine, into X-ray, and then you picked your subspecialty. So it was kind of a good way to do it. And again, I had no problem finding that job, but I had to work for a year before I could take my boards. And at the time, I had a good job and I had good coworkers, and they were very helpful in teaching me. And then I learned vascular on the job. Vascular was not taught at my school at that time. I believe the program is set up now to be taught, but it wasn't taught at that time. So I learned all that on the job, working nights. I mean, I loved it. Very stressful to graduate, but not be registered. But again, I didn't have a problem at that time getting a job. I was lucky. I don't think it's like that anymore. So if you look I took my abdomen boards and my OBGYN boards in the fall of 2001, but I took my physics in 2002. So if you look at my ARDMS, it looks like I'm registered since 2002. You don't become officially a sonographer until you pass your physics and your specialty. That's when you become a registered sonographer. And I took my physics boards when it was not the SPI. It was just called different, ultrasound physics. I don't know what the SPI is like. So when people ask, what do I study for? I'm like, listen here. I barely passed. It's not for the weak. I barely passed on my own, and I think I'm a great sonographer, and I barely passed that. But it's hard. You just have to get through it. Figure it out. Do what you can. And it was my lowest scoring.
but it's like one and done. You pass, and it's like, whew, okay.
Thank God. Thank God.
I honestly, though, hearing your story feels so it's still so relevant, though. There's a lot of schools out there very similar to yours that still make you either do CNA or X-ray or have some kind of healthcare profession or experience before you go in. So majority of people, I think that's mostly Midwest, East Coast type stuff. Because majority of those students that I talk to have to do that same thing.
Yeah. For me, it was great. I loved X-ray. I really did. I knew it was not what I wanted to do long term. It was a great way to introduce you into that field. Radiology is a field all on its own. So, when I was in college, one of my jobs was doing medical records at a family practice. right? So I did medical records on this end when we had like the big files to pull out. So I did medical records, and then was an x-ray tech, went into radiology, and then did ultrasound. So it was kind of this, like, I knew what it was like to work at the front desk.
Yeah.
I knew what it was like to give patient care as an x-ray tech. And then I knew what it was like going into ultrasound.
Lots of experience.
I can see positives and negatives to it, because some people I work with, they went in ultrasound school, that's all they've done. Before that, maybe they did retail, something that has nothing to do with that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. I like that I have that experience. I don't know if it's quite necessary for me. It's only been beneficial to me.
Yeah.
It's
beneficial.
Yeah.
Makes you better. And that's the point of schools, I think, doing that. They just want you to be better. And that's really great. I do know a lot of people out here, like for example in Vegas, who actually went into ultrasound, like had nothing, no inkling of anything medical, and are great sonographers, so totally. It's totally up to the person.
I don't think it is critical, but I think anything that makes you feel better and confident. Sometimes I think it's just learning the lingo. Like if you can speak that language, it's so beneficial. I work with a few sonographers that were MAs in OB offices. Oh, wow. And they went back to sonography school. They went back to ultrasound school, and they have made great OB techs, great MFM techs, because they came in already knowing it is like speaking a different language. Yeah. So anytime you get that experience, it's only going to be beneficial to you. So I've worked with some really good ones. I'm like, oh, you know what that is.
You're like, yeah, I don't even have to tell you
helpful. It's like I can teach you my language. If you teach me, it's beneficial for sure.
So knowing all of that, and now me meeting you on Instagram and social media, which is a totally brand new thing. And for those of you who don't know, I personally think she's a huge part of our community, our ultrasound community, because her videos are amazing. Lots of educational content that make me laugh, and I love it. And that's kind of the thing that people like nowadays, is quick information, right? So my question is, how long have you been doing this? Why did you get into it? How? And just tell them a little bit about it so they can know a little bit about your platform.
Yeah. Well, I will have to say that I started not doing OB because I thought it was awful. But I think what I realized when I had my own kids, turns out I have high risk pregnancies, and that really introduced me to the MFM side. When I had my own pregnancies, my husband, who's actually also in ultrasound, shockingly enough, he knew the sonographer that did all my high risk OB exams. Yeah. And I remember leaving my first like anatomy ultrasound with my son, who's 15 and a half. And I turned to my husband and I was like, I want to be Sherry when I'm older. This is who I want to be. Yeah. And then I turned that and I geared it into, I have manifested this. Now, how do I get it? Yes. And so I kind of let it kind of percolate while my children were little and while they were small. But I loved the way that she talked to me. She talked to me in a way that I could understand it without using these big words. And I think sometimes we get overwhelmed by so much that it kind of forces us to shut down a little bit. In my years of kind of going into OB and going into MFM, I really realized I didn't have anybody to talk to. Like I thought, let me get an OB job and let me just see if this is something I like to do. And so I worked as a solo OB tech for a private OB office. The OBs that I worked with, they were fantastic. They were super helpful, but other than the basic knowledge of ultrasound, they couldn't help me. And I worked by myself. So, I mean, I had reference books. The OBs would say, oh, if you don't know, we'll send them to the MFM. And then I had Google, and I was like, I just, I wanted to be better. And so that's what kind of pushed me into MFM. And I've really found a lot of the people I work with, we're all very helpful. It's like, I always say, like, I check my ego at the door. If I need a second set of eyes, someone come look at this. Someone look at this. Hey, what do you think about this? And it's that growing and that camaraderie that has really kind of made me think, how do I give this back? Because I know what it was like being this tech at an outpatient imaging center who got those OB exams and no one wanted to do them because no one felt proficient in them. There's no way to get proficient unless you're doing them. I was an OB tech who had nobody. I had no one to look at my images. I had no one to bounce things off of. And it's like, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what to ask. You can't get better if you don't have help. So it just kind of became this, how can I help people? And really by these short bursts of information, we retain it a lot. We retain it a lot better. And then we can go back and say, oh, I remember this persistent right umbilical vein. What does that look like? And it's just these kind of short bursts, and they're meant to just give you this little like, oh yeah, that's right. It's supposed to look like that. And I've had a lot of people reach out to me like, hey, what do you think about this? How do you do this in your office? How do you do that in yours? That's like my favorite part. Like, I love it. I love it when people reach out and they want to know more information, or how would you handle this? Like, that's the whole point, right? And if we build our sonographers up, we build our OB sonographers up, that means healthy babies. That means better care for mothers, better care for babies. I mean, it's this kind of trickle up effect, if you will. It's not a trickle down. We're like, we're bringing it up.
Yes.
So it just kind of became like, what do I want this part of this next step to be? I want it to be something better, if that makes sense. Like, and even if I can help a little bit, then that makes a difference for one baby, one mom, one sonographer. It's been very rewarding, very helpful. So that's kind of how it all started, if you will. It's just this like, all right, I know what it was like to be that person and not have any help. So
I love
how do
that.
I help? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. You're so inspirational, motivating.
Like I'm talking a lot.
No, I love that so much. Like, truly, you are the epitome of what I feel like a sonographer. I wish I would hope to have a sonographer like you to scan my babies. I've never had babies, but you know, like, and people can really tell when you enjoy your job, you like what you do. And that's, I get that comment a lot from a lot of my patients, and I'm sure you do too. Yeah. And it's just, it makes you feel better, because that makes you feel like you're doing what you were, you know, aspiring to be, or what you're supposed to do. Like, what, at one point in my life, I had no idea what I was going to do. And now I'm here, you know, and it's just, I love seeing that. And especially from you and your page, it just radiates. And I love that so much.
Good. It's supposed to.
Yes.
I hope it does.
It does. It really does. And you really do. You can tell you care about your patients. And that's what my clinical site, like, we really do care about patient care and quality. And it's more so that more than anything. And there's places that don't on it, like, sadly, but there are places that don't, you know?
Right. So. And I have worked for places that are more conveyor belt in that way. And it just doesn't jive. And you have to do that to learn what you do want.
Right.
And so if you have to kind of go through that to say, okay, well, this is not what I'm looking for. This did not serve me in any way. And you want to be around that serves you, you know, and that really works with you. And if you just want to go in and bang them out and be done, there's places for you to do that. But
get some experience.
No, that's definitely not me.
No,
definitely not me.
we take our time. We take our time.
We take our time. Yeah. Take our time.
And I know that I don't have TikTok, but I know that, you know, you make your cool videos. So definitely, if you guys are interested, I'll have her information in the description box below, so you can go follow her and see all the amazing things she's doing out there.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not that good on TikTok. I only use the platform to make videos, because it's awesome at making videos. I mean, it's fun. I feel like no matter what content you create, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, like you have to enjoy it. You have to have fun doing it. And I enjoy it. And, you know, sometimes what's interesting is I may do a TikTok about something or a video about something, and the next day I'm scanning and I'm thinking of it, because when you're teaching, you're educating yourself as well. Like, you're always thinking, you know, how would I explain this better? How would I explain this to a student? And so anytime, like any platform you make, you should enjoy it. You should have fun with it. You should like to do it. So for right now, it's fun.
Yeah.
Right now it's fun.
We always go into like saying that this field is really your continual learning process. I mean, you're point blank living proof, you know, that you're always continually learning.
Always. And even like, yes, I know I have all these certifications, but I still come out and I'm like, whew, I haven't seen this. Let's put it all together. Like, let me, in the room, I'm doing it manually. You know, I'm thinking, okay, if the heart is like this, what does my pulmonary look like? What does my aorta look like? I'm figuring it out. And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Like, we should know the answer right away. Like, that's what we should know. It doesn't have to be like that. You don't have to do that. Like, you don't have to do that. You can systematically kind of work it out yourself. And then what are your differentials, things like that. But I think we put so much pressure that if we don't know it, then we're not good enough. And that's, we're never going to see it all.
The case.
It's not, you're constantly learning, you're constantly being educated about it, and you're constantly being humbled by this career a little bit, but there's always more to learn, and you're just never going to see it all. And it's to keep learning like that helps us in every aspect of our career, every one of it.
Definitely not boring.
No.
We're going to go into the questions that a ton of people have been asking as far as like getting into the fetal echo portion, and like if you're considered general or echo. For people who are interested in fetal echo, what would you have to say to them?
So there are two ways to get into fetal echo. So one is through a general course. As you go to general and your OB, you fall under where the ARDMS is, under RDMS, your registered diagnostic medical sonographer. The other path to do fetal echo is under your diagnostic cardiac sonographer. So if you do like adult echo, and then you can go into pediatric echo or fetal echo, and that would be under the RDCS certification. So there's kind of like two paths that you can get to do fetal echo. Maybe they're more like this.
Yeah.
I don't know which ones were cardiac or is that general. No, just kidding. But so it's kind of, what's tricky about fetal echo is there's really not courses you can take, or I mean there are lectures, there are books, there's all of that, but it's not like you can go to school for fetal echo. None that I know of.
Yeah.
If they are out there, please let me know. Like I love learning about all this stuff. So, and there are so many schools across the country doing so much. I know there's some private companies that will go in and teach fetal echo, which I think is a phenomenal idea, but it really takes your physician and your practice training you to do that. If you want to do fetal echo and you're a general or an OB sonographer, then you have to go from the OB side. I don't know any OB sonographers who have their fetal echo certification. It's only MFM sonographers, as far as I know. And there's really, again, not like, oh, there's an MFM course you can take. They kind of throw you to the fire on that as well. But it's kind of like you get your, you start with your OB, right? You get experience in OB, and then you kind of go into the nuchal translucency and then the nasal bone. You kind of work your way up that way. If you look under AIUM, they have the AIUM has a website for practice parameters. And the practice parameters tells you what is the difference. And I'm kind of going into fetal heart. What's the difference between a complete OB exam versus a detailed MFM anatomical survey? So for my company, in a complete OB exam would be your situs, your 4-chamber heart view, your outflow tracts. So that's the aorta coming off the left ventricle and the pulmonary artery coming off the right ventricle. And then your 3-vessel view and your 3-vessel tracheal view, if feasible. Those are the only heart studies or heart images that you have to view in a complete ultrasound exam. Now, for a detailed exam, or one that we would do at an MFM office, take that and like triple it. Take all those images and and add even more to it. But those are the images essentially of a fetal echo as well. There's a few extra we put in there. We do pulmonary veins, we do the ductus venosus. There's other stuff too, and then all the Dopplering of those arteries and veins. But in my practice, as you work into being an MFM sonographer, those are the images you are taking already. So to kind of go into fetal echo, you're already doing your 2D images that need to be in an echo. So I had years ago, they asked me to do my fetal echo, and man, I was dragging my feet so bad. I was like, I'll do anything but take that fetal echo exam. I don't want to do echoes. And I just, again, I think sometimes if you can't figure it out, it's crushing. Like you just stop, right? It's like you cannot move forward. And for a long time, hearts were that way for me. But the more I did MFM heart studies, and I was already doing those images anyways, then fetal, it just all started to make more sense to me. I think when as you move up under a general course, right? You're doing general, you're doing OB, you're getting all those other little baby credentials. As you move into the anatomy of an MFM, then I think you can transition into echo. But again, it takes is the physician that you're working for, do they want to read echoes? Do they do echoes? Is that something that your company wants you to do?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to
find it.
Yeah, you have to kind of back in on that end.
Okay.
Now, as far as I know, on the cardiac side, I know that I know a few cardiac sonographers, not many, but I know a few of them. But most of them, when they're getting registered, they start under the adult echo, and then that gives them the RDCS. And then I think the majority of them go into pediatrics, and then they go into fetal. So when you're in pediatrics and then you dip down into fetal, we're all talking about congenital heart defects. Yeah. So again, it's that knowing the same language.
Yeah.
So, but again, it depends on what that cardiologist is doing. Is that cardiologist doing fetal and then pediatric? Because I think those two fields, they marry really well together. So sometimes if we have a complex cardiac defect on the fetal side and we know that baby needs surgery, they're going right to the pediatric cardiologist who does fetal, and then when the baby's born, and then after the surgical repair. Like it's a whole little trajectory of that field as well. So I think it's tricky because it kind of goes over into the general OB, and then it kind of goes into this cardiology. It just kind of overlaps a little bit right there, which I think is cool.
Yeah. So I guess now that I'm thinking about it, for example, like in my hospital, I do general and I do everything except for echo, right? So we have a separate echo department, and I work at a children's hospital. So I'm assuming they do the fetal echoes of the L&D patients we get, as well as after they're born, they have to probably do the pediatric echoes up in the NICU and the PICU and all that, because they do. So they must be registered in fetal and peds echo, I'm assuming, because they also do adults, obviously, in my hospital, because it's also an adult hospital as well. So,
but it's under the kind of that cardiac side.
Yeah, but it's under cardiac. And then for you guys in like outpatient settings, I think it's probably more so the RDMS, OBGYN, general MFM side. So that makes sense now.
Yeah, does that?
I never thought about it.
If you think about it that way, I like to think about it as when you need that kind of care, where do they go? They go to a cardiologist. So you're kind of like, they may take all of that. And I'm sure there are some places that, I know there's MFM offices, they don't do any echoes, because they just, any heart defect, you go right to the cardiologist.
Okay. Yeah.
So this can be different. Yes. This can be different for everybody.
Okay. So at least people know their options, and like they really do. I tell them all the time, like students or people who ask me questions, like you have to do research in your city and your town where you end up wanting to be, because like what if you go to school in California, you want to live in Florida? Like how do you know? What if it's like a big difference? That's where research plays a huge part.
But it's also, you got to know what questions to ask.
That's true.
If you want to do OB, MFM, and eventually echo, then you're solely going into maternal fetal medicine, and you're looking for places that do fetal echo. But maybe you want to do pediatrics. Maybe you want to do fetal and then go into pediatric echo and kind of see, okay, there's a complex cardiac defect. What happens after? Like, I like all my babies in utero. I don't want to do anything with pediatrics. I did one pediatric rotation. I'm like, no, that's not for me. So to me, I like this part. I like all this in utero part. I don't want to know what happens next. Like, Godspeed. I don't want to know.
See you later.
So you kind of have to ask yourself, like, do you want the front end or do you want the back end? Which part do you like? Which part will feed you more? Which part feeds your soul more? And that's, I like all the beginning stuff.
I like that.
That part is where I thrive the most in. So, but I think it is tricky, it's just another way to think of, where do you want to live? Like, in what realm do you want to live in?
Yes.
And then you kind of know what questions to ask on that side. So,
Okay. That's good. People need to know that, because I would have never known that also before. A lot of people go in ultrasound just like throwing themselves into it. But nowadays, more people are doing more research. So that's really good to know.
Yep.
And then what would you suggest for like books and study materials for the fetal echo exam, since I know you took that?
I did. So the first conference I went to was Julia Drose's conference. She does a conference through ESP. That's Edelman also does his conference. When I did it, it was obviously in person. So I went to Las Vegas and did their fall conference. When I took it in 2018, they did one in the fall and one in the spring. So that was the only time you could do the echo conference. Julia Drose, she's written a book. She works out of Colorado, and she started as a sonographer. So she speaks that language. But she has this great workbook that she gives out with her presentation. And she just really simplifies everything. And it's a question answer. You can ask her questions back and forth. She's fantastic. Her lecture series is great. But it was really during that conference, I realized like, oh, I know a lot more than I thought I did. And again, if you're doing MFM and you're doing all of those images of the heart, you're doing the basic of an echo anyways. I really liked Drose's conference. I read Dr. Abu Hamid's book front to back to front. I read that book. I mean, that book went everywhere with me. I do know that there's a new edition coming out, which I'm such a fangirl. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. Maybe I can get a signed one. But Abu Hamid has a great book that I really recommend, and I can't wait to see the next edition. Davies also has a really good testing book for fetal echo. I spent months just pouring myself into Droz, into Davies, and into Abu Hamid. And that's what I used. And I found it was everything I needed to pass my boards. There was nothing else I needed. I'm also a really crappy test taker. So for me, some people are great test takers and I'm just not. And so to me, I had to focus almost on questions and learning like, okay, what's the answer that's going to throw me off? What are they trying to throw me off with? So it became know the material. So when I read the question, I already know what the answer is before having to go A, B, C, and D, if that makes sense, right? Like I'm already trying to answer the question. So I think both Droz and Abu Hamid and Davies was really good in preparing me for that.
That's a lot of great material. I feel like people have no idea where to start, but there's always like something you just kind of get into something and read it and go through it. And
and it was fun because when you take your fetal echo boards, if you're OB certified, you take your fetal echo boards, you need a sonographer who is fetal echo certified to sign off on your ability to test, or you need your physician to do that. So the sonographer that signed off on mine, I would come to work and she'd say, what are we studying today? I'm like, it's the aortic arch. She's like, okay, sounds good. So we would just talk about the aortic arch all day. What are the normal velocities? What is the shape? What does an interrupted aortic arch look like? It was just all of this, like this support of, okay, this is what we're talking about today. And we're just doing this. So you kind of like systematically just break it all down.
Yeah.
Which was helpful to me.
Yes.
Super helpful.
Yeah. Cause a lot of times people don't know how to study or where to start. And it's all, the information's there. It's just, you got to figure out how you can get it.
Yeah. And again, it gets overwhelming. And what do we do when things are overwhelming? Like shut it down.
Yes.
Right. We're like,
right. We always do.
So you just got to start somewhere. And that's where I started, was this conference. And then I kind of, even in her book, she's got it all segmented down. So you can kind of break it up within her segments, which again, you just need to start. And that's what I did. So.
Yeah. What is the most challenging part about working in MFM, and what's your most favorite part about it?
I think the most challenging part, I think when people come into OB, like patients, they're like, you must love your job. And I do, like, don't get me wrong. Of course I do, but there are really high highs and there are really low lows. And so I think, to me, I do not have I don't have a problem remaining positive. I am very much like, if you're in it, we will take you to the end of this pregnancy, even if we know baby's not viable, and you can feel like a mom up until this point because you'll always be a mother. So I think a lot of it is, I think a lot of people don't realize that when those lows are low, they're really low, you know, and when you're in high risk OB, like talking unhealthy moms, unhealthy children, unhealthy babies. And that, I think that's a challenging part of it, is getting people to understand, like, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, you know, it's not every baby lives, and not every mother is healthy. So I think that is one of the most challenging parts. But when people decide to carry their babies to term, even if they know that their quality of life is low or they may not make it to term, like, we're in it, like, we're there to support that mom, and we will, you know, carry that baby until delivery. And I think being supportive and sometimes not making it so heavy, right? Like, even if we know that the outcome is not what we want, just giving them some joy and just having them enjoy their pregnancy, I think is really rewarding and simultaneously challenging, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that really does.
But I love MFM. I love MFM because, God, you just never know what you're going to see. I mean, it is like, I mean, there could be 5 babies in there. There could be this this crazy heart defect that we don't know what it is. There can be this cervical thing, placenta thing. Because if you think about it, you know, anything that happens at an OB office, any question, they're going to send them right to us. Yeah. So I love seeing all the complex cases. I love that part of it. And I just don't, you're never going to, the same thing twice. You're never going to see it. You're not going to see it all. I had this like bucket list when I started MFM of like things I wanted to see. And I just officially hit it 6 months ago of all these. And I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm good.
My career's good.
All right, done. But I like that part of it. I like that it's different. And I like that there's just, it's just different every day. And I appreciate that part. Yeah. So
I love that. It's really interesting to me. And obviously that's a whole field in itself. So I mean, there's so many things you can see in just general, but like, I know in your specialty and with MFM, there's a lot. Yeah. So but that's I mean, if you think about it, all anatomy is different on, even if you're doing adults and vascular, like, I think if you find that as being like interesting, that fulfills you. It doesn't have to be babies. You know, if you find cardiac that way, if you find vascular that way, if you find general that way, it's just every day is different. So that's kind of the blessing and the curse of ultrasound. all at the same time. Oh yeah.
All at the same time. So
what is the most common misfinding?
It is heart defects, like hands down heart defects. And I think what happens, at least at the OB offices that refer to us, they're limiting the heart use, limited heart. And they may try once, they may try twice. So sometimes I'm not sure if the sonographer is coming to the OB saying, I think something's wrong, so we need to limit it, versus I don't understand why I can't get a 4-chamber, so I'm just going to limit it. Right. Yeah. Like, and again, that's the most kind of overwhelming piece of the baby. You know, I think heart defects are they're the most, especially, like I said, especially like a VSD, those things are missed. But heart defects are definitely the number one missed thing for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Hands down.
Yeah, definitely. Little baby hearts. On average, how many patients do you scan a day?
At my office, we have the option to do 5 8-hour shifts, 4 8-hour shifts, or 4 9-hour shifts. So there's a little variety in that, which I like, but that depends on what exam is being scheduled. If you're doing if you're doing a detailed anatomy, that's an hour to do that. If you're doing an echo, that's an hour. Our completes, our BPPs, our first trimesters, our pelvics, because we do pelvics in our office, those are all 30-minute exams. So it kind of depends. If you've got a bunch of 30-minute ultrasounds, that's kind of exhausting. I mean, really, in theory, you know, you can do 8 in the morning and 8 in the afternoon, which is again, exhausting. But also twin echoes, that's technically one patient, but that's 2 hours. Yeah. We just had a quad detailed on the schedule. So that was from 1 to 4:30, right? So that's one patient, but 4 babies. And now we don't normally, we switch off. Someone will take the first 2 babies, someone take the second 2 babies.
That's cool.
So we kind of share that. Yeah, as it should be. Triplets, nah, I can do that. But once 4 and above, like everyone needs a break. Man. Mom, baby, sonographers, everyone needs a break. So yeah, it's kind of interesting when you have when you have a lot of longer studies. And I think for MFM, we're scanning the longer, harder studies. And at an OB office, they have a heavier patient load, but lighter exams, if you will. Viabilities, BPPs, so you may scan more in an OB office, like your volume is higher, but our protocols are more in an MFM. So it's a little bit of a trade-off there.
Yeah.
You know? So typically, sometimes you get a lot if you have a lot of half-hour appointments, but sometimes the longer exams, they're harder on your body. And you need a mental break.
I know.
After multiples and echoes.
I mean, in our L&D, I remember we had one night, there was over 8 of them, and ours are very limited, but I can only imagine doing a full-on exam on them. That takes a minute. Baby's not always in that position.
It takes a minute. It takes a minute.
Longer than a minute.
It's a good way to put it.
Takes a minute.
It takes a minute. It does. So yeah, it just kind of depends on what you're doing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So many people I know are so interested in MFM OBGYN. I know we could talk probably for hours on this subject, and I want people to go to your page and to kind of dive into your education content materials. And so, it's really just amazing what you're doing for this community, and I appreciate it so much.
Good.
Just know that you are really helping people doing
good. I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. So that's what's it.
Yeah. Do you have any last minute advice for general, just students in general that are going into this field?
I really think don't put blinders on when you're in school. Do not limit yourself. If you think I'm going into OB and this is all I want to do, don't put those blinders on. I mean, I'm thankful that if I don't do OB, I can go back and do general. I can be trained in breast. I can do a lot of things, right? I can do vascular. But when you learn the whole subset of ultrasound, it can kind of tell you where you want to be. And you never quite know, what if I don't want to do OB? I can go back to general. So I think, if you think this is where you want to be, get your general, get your OB, get those registries, take a part-time job in an OB office, see if that's something you want to do, work your way up to the MFM. The first MFM job I applied for, I did not get. And I thought, well, maybe this is just not supposed to be for me. I worked another year and thought, no, that's what I want. So I tried again, right? So don't let that first thing be okay, I'm not doing it. But if you really open yourself up to all of ultrasound, it gives you so much more of a broader spectrum of what ultrasound is and all these little facets that you can kind of make a decision on what you want to do. So I just never stop learning, and don't minimize yourself to just one field of specialty.
Yeah.
Get it
It'll
all.
take you far.
Yeah,
for sure. I know that.
Totally.
There's still so much I have yet to do.
Yeah.
And it's never ending, and I love it.
Yeah. That's the whole idea, right? You're constantly learning and you're constantly moving on. And I think that's the best part of it. I mean, I didn't even do OB until I think 12 years in. So now I'm about 10 years in to just OB MFM, and I love it, but am I going to be doing this in 10 years? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I love the idea that it's not what I started with is not where I am now. And so we're supposed to learn, and we're supposed to evolve. We're supposed to grow, and maybe what you wanted 10 years ago is not what you want now. So the ultrasound field is very vast, and there's many facets of it. So don't overlook them all.
As small as community is, it's a huge world.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I appreciate it so much. So where can they find you?
I am on Instagram under SonoeyesUltrasound. I'm on TikTok under sono.eyes. So right now those are the platforms that I'm currently working with, but hopefully more to come.
Yes.
So we'll see where that takes me.
Can't wait. I appreciate it so much. Thank you. And for those of you guys who are watching, don't forget to follow her on Instagram, TikTok, and comment down below if you have any questions. I'm sure she's willing to answer them.
Always.
So thank you so much.
Okay.
I appreciate
it.
Bye.